First contact and deception. The UNS Mercy glided silently through the star-speckled void, its pristine white hull gleaming under distant starlight. At 2 kilometers long, the medical vessel was humanity's crowning achievement in spacefaring humanitarian aid. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her dark eyes reflecting the cosmic ballet of stars beyond. 20 years of deep space medical service had left subtle lines around her eyes, but her posture remained as straight as the day she graduated from the United Nations Medical Fleet Academy. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal," Lieutenant Rivera announced from his communication station. "It's using an unusual frequency, but the universal distress markers are clear. Translation suggests multiple critical casualties." Chen turned from the window, her short silver-streaked hair catching the soft light of the bridge displays. Source: unknown vessel, approximately 3 light hours from our position. Signal indicates they suffered severe damage from a solar storm. Multiple life signs, but they're degrading. Chen didn't hesitate. The Mercy existed for precisely these moments. Plot an intercept course. Alert Dr. Pidle to prepare the emergency response teams, and notify Earth Command of our deviation from planned route. As the massive hospital ship altered course, its arrays of medical pods and emergency response bays began their warm-up sequences. The Mercy carried over 2,000 medical staff and could treat up to 10,000 patients simultaneously. Its automated systems could handle virtually any known biological or technological crisis. Dr. Aisha Patel's voice came through the bridge speakers. "Captain, emergency teams are prepping. Any data on the species we're dealing with?" "Negative," Chen replied. "Prepare for full first contact protocols alongside emergency procedures." The next 6 hours passed in controlled chaos as the Mercy's crew readied themselves for their first encounter with an unknown species. When they finally reached visual range, the alien vessel came into view. A crystalline structure roughly the size of an Earth cruiser, with what appeared to be severe damage along its port side. "Life signs are stable but critical," reported Dr. Peddle from the medical bay. "Their biology seems compatible with our basic treatment protocols. Permission to begin emergency telemedical assessment." "Granted," Chen authorized, "but maintain first contact safety measures." The alien vessel's response came quickly. Too quickly, Chen would later realize. Their language systems adapted to Earth standard with surprising speed, and their ship's specifications matched the Mercy's docking protocols almost perfectly. As the first of the alleged victims were brought aboard, Chen watched from the observation deck. They were tall, graceful beings with iridescent scales and 4-fingered hands. Their apparent injuries looked severe: plasma burns, radiation damage, and trauma consistent with their reported solar storm encounter. But something wasn't right. Chen had spent too long in deep space to ignore her instincts. The way the injured aliens moved, the precision of their ship's compatibility, the convenience of their communication systems. She opened a secure channel to Earth Command, encoding it through the Mercy's quantum array. "Command, this is Captain Chen. Request silent verification of Protocol Guardian. Something about this rescue feels wrong." The response was immediate. "Protocol Guardian verified. Continue standard operations. Support is already en route." Chen allowed herself a small smile. 20 years ago, humanity had learned a harsh lesson about the importance of protecting its healers. Now, every medical ship in the fleet carried special protocols. Protocols their current patients were about to discover. In the medical bay below, Dr. Patel was starting to notice discrepancies too. The injuries, while convincing at first glance, showed subtle signs of artificial creation. And the aliens' questions seemed oddly focused on the Mercy's capabilities rather than their own recovery. The trap was about to spring. But it wasn't the trap their visitors thought it was. "Captain," Lieutenant Rivera's voice was tight with controlled alarm. 3 vessels just dropped out of FTL. Warship configuration, matching our visitors' design aesthetic. They're charging weapons. Chen nodded calmly. "Right on schedule. Initiate Protocol Guardian." and open a channel to our guests, both in the medical bay and those newly arrived. Let's show them why no one attacks Earth's hospital ships. The game was about to change, and humanity's most closely guarded secret was about to be revealed. The Mercy wasn't just a hospital ship, it was the bait in humanity's most elaborate defense strategy. And the Kraxan Empire was about to learn why attacking healers was the worst mistake any species could make. The Web Titans. A resonant voice filled the Mercy's communication channels, its tone dripping with artificial courtesy. Hospital Ship Mercy, this is High Commander Vexlor of the Kraxan Empire. Your vessel is now under our protection. Please power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Captain Chen's fingers drummed once on her command chair, the only sign of emotion she allowed herself to show. Around her, the bridge crew maintained their positions with practiced calm. They'd drilled for this scenario countless times, though this was the first real-world execution. High Commander, Chen responded, her voice steady. This is a clearly marked medical vessel operating under International Earth Treaty regulations. We are currently treating patients and cannot comply with your request. The alien commander's laugh echoed through the bridge. Patients? Oh, you mean our advance team. They've performed admirably, haven't they? Such convincing injuries. In the medical bay, the supposedly wounded aliens were already moving. Their bandages fell away, revealing perfectly healthy scales beneath. Hidden weapons materialized from within their medical gowns. Dr. Patil watched with clinical detachment as her patients transformed into hostiles, her dark eyes betraying no surprise. Please, one of the aliens sneered, leveling a plasma pistol at her. No heroics. We've studied your kind. Healers, pacifists, you haven't fought a war in over a century. The Kraxan Empire requires your medical technology, and we will have it. Patil raised her hand slowly, her voice carrying an edge of amusement that seemed to unsettle her captors. You're right about one thing. We are healers, but you should have studied our history more carefully. Above, the 3 Kraxan warships moved into attack positions. Their sleek, predatory forms dwarfed the Mercy, weapons systems pulsing with barely contained energy. On his flagship's bridge, Commander Vexlor studied the medical ship's readings with mounting confusion. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting some unusual energy signatures from the human vessel. They don't match any known medical equipment. Impossible, Vexlor dismissed. Our intelligence is clear. Earth abandoned military technology generations ago to focus on healing and exploration. These readings must be some new form of medical scanner. Captain Chen's voice came through their communications again, carrying a note of warning that made Vexlor's scales bristle. Commander, I'm giving you one chance to withdraw. Release your hold on our ship and recall your boarding parties. This is your only warning. Or what? Vexlor laughed. You'll heal us to death. Your ship carries no weapons, Captain. Your own laws forbid it. Now, prepare to be boarded. The Kraxan Empire thanks you for your contribution to our medical corps. Chen sighed, almost sadly. You're correct, Commander. The Mercy carries no weapons, but you never asked about her defenses. She pressed a series of commands into her chair's interface, activating Hippocratic protocols. All medical staff implement Code Avalon. In the medical bay, Dr. Patel's smile widened as the lights dimmed momentarily. The armed aliens shifted nervously, their weapons still trained on the medical staff. What are you doing? Their leader demanded. Making sure we can keep our oath, Patil replied calmly. First, do no harm. The deck beneath them began to hum with power. Throughout the ship, hidden systems activated, systems that had nothing to do with healing, and everything to do with ensuring that healing could continue uninterrupted. On the bridge, Lieutenant Rivera's console lit up with new data. Captain, Quantum Beacon is active. First response units will arrive in 3 minutes. Very good, Chen nodded. Let's show our guests why Earth's hospital ships travel alone. She opened a channel to all decks. All personnel, Prepare for defensive operations. Remember your training. We are healers, and that is precisely why we must never lose. The Kraxan warship's sensors suddenly blazed with warnings. The seemingly defenseless medical ship was changing. Layers of advanced technology, hidden beneath its pristine white hull, were coming to life. And in the space around them, reality itself began to twist as humanity's real guardians answered the Mercy's call. Commander Vexlor was about to learn the hard way that humans hadn't abandoned warfare. They had simply found a better reason to practice it. Hidden strength. Space itself seemed to shiver. At first, the Kraxan sensors detected nothing but slight gravitational distortions, easily dismissed as background radiation. Then the distortions grew, forming perfect geometric patterns around the Mercy. Commander Vexlor watched in growing horror as massive ships began to materialize from what appeared to be empty space. They emerged like ghosts, becoming solid. Dozens, then hundreds of vessels, their hulls decorated with the same red cross that marked the Mercy, but these were anything but hospital ships. Each one bristled with technology that made the Kraxan warships look primitive in comparison. "Impossible," Vexlor whispered. "Our intelligence was exactly what we wanted you to see." Captain Chen's voice cut through his shock. "For centuries, Earth has maintained two fleets. One that heals, visible to all, and one that protects, hidden until needed. The lead vessel of Earth's defense fleet dwarfed even the Mercy. Its name was emblazoned across its midnight black hull in gleaming silver, UNDF Guardian. On its bridge stood Admiral Helena Santos, her weathered face set in lines of grim determination. "This is Admiral Santos of the United Nations Defense Fleet." Her voice resonated through all channels. "You have committed an act of war by attempting to seize a medical vessel. However, in keeping with our principles, we offer you one chance to surrender." In the Mercy's medical bay, the armed Kraxan infiltrators found themselves facing a new problem. The medical staff they'd thought helpless were now surrounded by shimmering fields of energy, defensive barriers that had been disguised as ordinary medical equipment. Dr. Patil addressed her former patients with professional courtesy. "The barriers around us are calibrated to your biology. They won't harm you, but they will keep you perfectly still. After all, we're doctors. Immobilizing patients for their own safety is something we excel at." One of the Kraxan soldiers fired his weapon in desperation. The energy blast dissipated harmlessly against the barrier, its power redirected into the ship's medical systems. "As I said," Patil continued calmly, "we're very good at what we do." On the bridge, Captain Chen watched as the Guardian and its fleet took up defensive positions around the Mercy. The formation was beautiful in its complexity. Layers of overlapping shields and defensive systems, all designed with one purpose: to ensure that healing could continue uninterrupted, no matter the threat. "You don't understand." Vexlor's voice had lost its arrogance, replaced by confusion. "We've monitored your species for decades. You build hospitals instead of warships. You send aid to your enemies. Your military budget is a fraction of your medical research funding." "All true," Chen agreed. "But you missed something crucial. Humans learned long ago that the strongest warrior isn't the one who can cause the most harm. It's the one who can prevent it. Every credit we spent on medical research taught us more about defensive systems. Every hospital we built helped us perfect our shield technology. We became experts at preserving life, and in doing so, we became unbeatable." Admiral Santos's voice cut in again. "Your ships are now contained within our defensive grid. Your weapons have been neutralized, not destroyed, but rendered harmless. We don't need to fire a single shot to defeat you." As if to demonstrate, the Guardian released a pulse of energy that swept across the Kraxan vessels. Every weapon system aboard their ships suddenly powered down, their energy redirected into their own life support systems. The mighty warships hung helpless in space, unable to attack, but in no danger themselves. "This is how Earth fights," Chen explained to her stunned adversaries. "We've spent centuries perfecting the art of stopping battles before they begin. Our weapons don't destroy, they protect. And we found that's far more terrifying to our enemies than any amount of firepower. Around the Mercy, Earth's defense fleet began activating their full array of defensive systems. The space between the ships filled with overlapping fields of energy, creating a fortress of interlocked shields. The Kraxan vessels found themselves not just defeated, but contained within a web of protective technology more advanced than anything their empire had ever encountered. It was becoming clear to Commander Vexlor that he hadn't just miscalculated. He had fundamentally misunderstood what made humanity a force to be reckoned with. They hadn't chosen healing over warfare. They had transformed warfare itself into an act of preservation. Guardian Protocol. Initiating Guardian Protocol Phase 2. Admiral Santos announced, her voice carrying across all channels. The massive defensive grid surrounding the Mercy began to pulse with a soft, blue-white light. You're about to witness why Earth's medical knowledge makes us uniquely qualified to neutralize threats. Inside the Kraxan vessels, something extraordinary began to happen. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated in precise patterns, creating a sensation that every crew member recognized from their military training. It felt exactly like their neural sedation chambers. Your biology isn't so different from species we've treated before, Dr. Paddle explained over the comm system, her voice carrying the same soothing tone she used with nervous patients. Right now, your ships are being converted into temporary medical pods. The gravitational frequencies are calibrated to induce a state of calm awareness. You can observe, but you cannot act aggressively, much like how we treat patients experiencing combat shock. Commander Vexlor tried to order his weapons officers to find a way around the humans' defenses, but his crew sat peaceful and unresponsive at their stations, their bodies regulated by fields that spoke to their very biology. The mighty Kraxan warships had been transformed into floating hospitals. On the Mercy's bridge, Captain Chen watched the tactical displays with professional satisfaction. Lieutenant Rivera began full-spectrum analysis of their ships. Focus on life support and medical needs. Already underway, Captain Rivera reported. Their atmospheric mix is actually quite similar to Earth standard. Medical databases are correlating their biological data now. We can treat any conditions we find. The Guardian continued its work, extending fields of influence that didn't just disable the Kraxan ships, but actively improved their functionality. Life support systems were optimized. Radiation shielding was enhanced. Even the artificial gravity was adjusted to better suit Kraxan physiology. You see, Chen addressed Vexlor, whose scales had taken on a distinctly paler shade. When you spend centuries learning how to heal every species you encounter, you also learn exactly how their bodies and technologies work. There's no weapon more effective than perfect medical knowledge. Admiral Santos' fleet moved with surgical precision, each ship performing its role in a complex dance of protection and containment. Some generated the defensive fields, others maintained the biological stabilization network, and still others stood ready to adapt to any new threats that might emerge. Status report from Medical Bay 7. Dr. Patel's voice came through. Our original patients are responding well to the calming fields. I've taken the liberty of treating their actual injuries, the ones they inflicted on themselves to sell their deception. I don't believe in allowing anyone to remain injured, even if they're hostile. In the distance, more ships were arriving. But these weren't warships. Hospital ships from across Earth's territory were responding to the incident, bringing with them additional medical staff and resources. The Mercy's quantum beacon hadn't just summoned defenders. It had called for healers. A remarkable thing about human medical technology, Chen continued, addressing her captive audience, is how easily it converts from healing to defense. Those neural stabilizers keeping your crews calm. Originally designed for trauma treatment. The fields containing your ships. Adapted from quarantine barriers. Even the energy dampeners came from medical stasis technology. The Kraxan soldiers in the medical bay watched in stunned silence as human medical staff moved efficiently around them, treating their self-inflicted wounds while keeping them safely contained. The barriers holding them showed not the slightest weakness, yet somehow allowed doctors to work through them as if they weren't there. The truly interesting part, Dr. Patel mentioned casually as she healed a particularly nasty self-inflicted plasma burn, is that your weapons actually helped us. Every shot you fired was absorbed by our shields and converted into additional power for our medical systems. You quite literally made us better healers by trying to attack us. Admiral Santos's voice cut through again. Guardian Protocol Phase 2 complete. All Kraxan vessels are secured, and their crews are stabilized. Casualty count, 0. Property damage, minimal. Mission accomplished. Around them, Earth's defensive fleet began to shift formation, creating safe corridors for the arriving hospital ships. The message was clear. Humanity's response to violence wasn't counter-violence, but an overwhelming display of their dedication to preservation and healing. Legacy of Mercy. 3 months after what became known as the Mercy incident, Captain Chen stood in the observation lounge of her ship, watching a very different fleet approach. The vessels bearing down on the Mercy weren't warships but hospital ships. And they weren't human. The lead vessel's hull bore the distinctive crystalline patterns of Kraxan design, but where weapon ports had once been, medical pods now gleamed. The Kraxan Medical Corps vessels are requesting docking clearance, Lieutenant Rivera reported. Their credentials check out. They're part of the new Galactic Medical Exchange Program. Chen smiled. Grant them clearance. Dr. Patel, would you join our welcoming committee? The aftermath of the failed attack had reshaped galactic politics in ways no one had expected. The Kraxan Empire, faced with the revelation of humanity's true strength, had chosen an unprecedented path. They requested to learn from Earth's example. Admiral Santos materialized on the bridge via hologram, her image crisp against the backdrop of stars. Quite a change from our last meeting with the Kraxan, wouldn't you say, Captain? The best kind of change, Chen agreed. They're converting their entire defensive fleet to match our model. Weapons to shields, warships to hospital ships. The transformation had been remarkable. Once the Kraxan leadership understood that humanity's medical knowledge was intertwined with their defensive capabilities, they realized they had stumbled upon something far more valuable than a tactical advantage. They had discovered a new way of existing in the galaxy. In the months following the incident, Earth had been flooded with requests from various species, all seeking to understand how humans had achieved such perfect harmony between protection and healing. The Guardian Protocol became a template for a new kind of defensive doctrine, one based on preservation rather than destruction. Dr. Patel's medical bay had become a teaching center, where alien medical officers learned alongside human doctors. The most fascinating part, she told Chen as they walked to the docking bay, is how quickly they're adapting our techniques to their own biology. The Kraxan natural regenerative abilities, combined with our defensive medical technology, are producing remarkable results. The first group of Kraxan medical officers to board the Mercy included a familiar face, former Commander Vexlor, now bearing the insignia of the Kraxan Medical Corps. His scales had a healthier sheen now, and his posture spoke of humility rather than aggression. Captain Chen, he greeted her with a respectful bow. I come seeking wisdom rather than conquest this time. Our people have realized that true power lies not in the ability to take life, but in the commitment to preserve it. The Mercy incident had sparked a revolution in galactic thinking. Species that had spent millennia building ever more powerful weapons now redirected their resources toward medical research and defensive technology. Earth's hospital ships became templates for a new kind of vessel, one that could both heal and protect. The fascinating thing about healing, Chen addressed the assembled alien medical officers, is that it knows no enemies. In our centuries of space exploration, we've discovered that most conflicts arise from fear. Fear of weakness, fear of exploitation, fear of death. By focusing our technology on preservation and protection, we've created something that transcends warfare itself. As if to demonstrate her point, the Mercy's defensive systems activated briefly, creating a display of the overlapping fields that had so thoroughly contained the Kraxan warships months ago. But this time, the fields weren't restraining anyone. They were teaching, showing the intricate dance of protection and healing that had become humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. The legacy of the Mercy incident spread throughout known space. Species that had once competed to build the deadliest weapons now strove to create the most effective medical technology. The sight of a hospital ship approaching became a symbol not just of healing, but of absolute security. In her office, Captain Chen added a final note to her report to Earth Command. In seeking to protect our healers, we have given the galaxy something far more valuable than victory in battle. We have shown them that the most powerful force in existence isn't the ability to take life, but the unwavering commitment to preserve it. The Mercy incident didn't just prevent a war. It started a revolution in how civilizations think about power itself. Outside her window, human and alien medical ships floated side by side, their crews working together to expand the boundaries of healing knowledge. The defensive grid that had once contained enemies now served as a teaching tool, showing new allies how protection and preservation could work in perfect harmony. The greatest victory, Chen reflected, wasn't that humanity had successfully defended itself. It was that they had shown the galaxy a better way to exist, one where the strongest shields protected hospitals, and the most advanced technology served the cause of healing. In doing so, they had transformed potential enemies into partners in the greatest mission of all, the preservation of life itself.